This is Rock and Roll English. Real people, real English. Here's your host, Martin Johnston.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll English. Episode number 77, I believe. I hope you enjoyed the bonus episode recently of me giving advice about how to learn English, because I do actually know, well, something about how to learn English. Maybe I'll actually do more of them in the future if you enjoyed it. If you didn't, probably I won't do more of them. Anyway, on that show, I mentioned the members area. Well, if you've not listened to the show, do that first. But we have a new special members area. Only 100 places available. They are filling up. So if you're interested, go to rockandrollenglish.com/full volume. And the best thing about signing up is to see the thank you video of Dan the Man. He looks extremely uncomfortable in the video and basically looks like a bit of an idiot, which I obviously enjoyed. Anyway, I will stop talking now and leave you to listen to the conversation with me and Dan the Man. Happy listening. Dan the Man, how are you today?
I'm very well. How are you?
Always fantastic, Dan. Do you feel good knowing that you're part of the Rock and Roll English team?
I can't stop thinking about it, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, Dan, how do we start the show?
With a review.
Do you think we have a review?
No.
Incorrect, as usual. We do have a review. It's from Ricky85, and it's obviously 5 stars because we only read the 5-star ones. Although there are only 5-star ones, luckily. Still, we're waiting for someone to leave 1 star and say, this podcast is shit, you two are boring bastards.
Would you read it out?
I would actually. I think I would quite enjoy it in some way, but that's not an invitation to do that. Okay, we prefer 5 stars. Anyway, so the title is Troppo Fantastic, which means too fantastic. It's so fantastic, it's too fantastic, Dan. And it says, excellent podcast and really useful. I don't usually like podcasts, but this one is really funny and keeps my attention. I love Martin and Dan, brackets, especially Martin. Keep on rocking, lads.
Are you friends?
No, we're actually not.
Okay.
Nice word there at the end there, lads, which is like boys, I suppose. More slang though, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah. Do you consider yourself a lad?
Oh, I'm a lad, boy. I'm a lad. You, on the other hand, are definitely not a lad. Anyway, Dan, so this week there's an important event. What is it?
I don't know. What is it?
Valentine's Day, Dan.
Oh,
what about
of course,
Mrs.
yeah.
Dan the Man? Have you not got something sorted? So something sorted, I mean like organised.
Yes, I have, yeah.
Oh, here we go. Are you going to tell us?
No. Have you got anything organised?
No, I actually haven't, Dan. I'm a lad. Lads don't do stuff for Valentine's Day.
Well, see, I have a problem because it's my mum's birthday this week as well, and I almost forgot that, so my head's all over the place.
All over the place. Nice term, that. It's like chaotic, let's say. But that's one important event in the week, Dan. What's the other one? Do you know? We spoke about this on last year's Valentine's Day podcast, if you remember.
I don't remember.
What a surprise. Memory of a goldfish. On the 15th, which is Thursday, it is Singles Awareness Day.
Oh, I do remember this because this time last year, we were making a big thing of that.
Well, yeah, because we were both single, Dan. How things have changed, hey?
Yeah.
And remember, so Single Awareness Day is, you know, to raise awareness for single people, like they are dying from some sort of disease. I'm not sure. But, you know, as we were single not very long ago, Dan, you know, I still love single people. I've got a lot of respect for them. So I thought we could talk about the Singles Day instead of Valentine's Day this year.
They're not a different species, Martin.
I know. Well, this is what the day makes it sound like. But, you know, I thought we could talk about this instead of Valentine's Day this year. How about that, Dan?
Sounds good.
So, on this day, apparently many people wear green as it is the complete opposite of red. Interesting. So I thought, Dan, what's your favourite colour?
Good question. Green.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You were made for Singles Day, Dan.
I know. Yeah, I'm. Yeah.
My favourite colour. Thanks for asking. Do you know?
Red.
Red. Exactly.
Cliche.
We are like chalk and cheese, Dan. So if you're like chalk and cheese, you are two completely different things.
But you are also colourblind. Can you even see red?
I can see red. Colourblind, by the way, is when you cannot distinguish colours, and it's only a few colours, Dan. Okay, I don't like telling people that.
One of which is red, isn't it?
Red and brown, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like telling people that, though, because as soon as you do, I can guarantee for the next 5 minutes, people will say to me, what colour's this then? What colour's this? What colour's this? What colour's this? What colour's this? Just think, look, just fuck off, okay? So please, nobody ask me what colour anything is. But a way people celebrate this now, apparently, a new sort of popular thing to do, is to travel to Brazil to watch the, carnival. You know, this sounds pretty good now, doesn't it?
Yeah. You've always wanted to go to Brazil, haven't you?
I've always wanted to go, especially to the carnival thing. So, you know, I might go back to being single if this is what the day does, the Singles Awareness Day.
Yeah, do it. I don't know what Mrs. Rock and Roll English will think, but
yeah, good point. Well, I hope she's not listening. And even better in Brazil is that apparently they do not celebrate Valentine's Day on the 14th of February, but they celebrate it in June.
Why?
Look, Dan, I didn't do that much research, okay? I've just got a few things here, but that's interesting. So, Brazilian listeners, let us know about that, if that's true, because, you know, I read a lot of this stuff from, you know, shit websites, so it might be true, it might not be true.
I fucking hate Valentine's Day. What I hate most about Valentine's Day, not even on Valentine's Day, when you're out and someone comes up to you with the rose, you know, you cannot look like you always look like a prick in that situation. Because either you say, yes, I'll buy it, and then everyone's looking at you thinking, oh, you know, sucker. Or you say no, and you look like a prick.
So when it says prick there, it basically means dick. I disagree. Well, in Italy here, it's considered tacky if you buy one of those roses. What does tacky mean, Dan?
Cheap.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a cheap shit thing to do, really. So, you know.
Yeah, but surely if they come up and you just say no straight away, you look a bit.
No, you don't. It's just the norm here. When I say the norm, I mean like the normal thing to do. Unfortunately, because, you know, those people often work long hours and, you know, it's not the best for them. Anyway, so let's get back to Singles Awareness Day. Apparently, it's a celebration rather than a festival of self-pity. What does self-pity mean, Dan?
When people feel sorry for themselves.
That's right, dictionary, Dan.
Oh, God.
But it says here on the website, so for the single people, many people in relationships wish they were single as well. There's some rock and roll grammar there, Dan. Do you know why?
Is it conditional?
No. After wish, do you notice we had the past there, Dan? Wish they were single.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know why that is?
You know I don't know why, just tell me.
Well, it's sort of like the sort of, let's say, subjunctive mood, but that's really rock and roll grammar, so let's not get into that. So when I say let's not get into that, let's not, you know, start talking about that. Anyway, so I've got some facts about being single and the benefits of being single, because, you know, we were single for a long time, Dan, and it's pretty good. So, apparently, when you are single, you can work on yourself, because 62% of people that took part in this survey, so when I say they took part, I mean they did the survey, 62% got fatter in a relationship. And I thought, Dan, you did the opposite, really, didn't you?
Did I? Go on,
because
tell me.
You were fat before, and then you got in a relationship, and then you lost weight.
I wasn't fat. That's a myth.
You were fat. So that's Dan just ripping up the rule book, which is a nice expression to say someone doesn't follow the rules. And another one here is that you can flirt without fear when you're single. When you were single, Dan, were you doing a lot of flirting?
I don't know if you could call it flirting. But I got chucked out a few bars.
Oh, really? So chucked out is literally thrown out. What, for being like a sexual pest?
I was joking, yeah.
Sure. So a sexual pest, by the way, is someone that sort of harasses and disturbs women. So that was Dan before he met Mrs. Dan the man.
It's not true.
Well, sure. I always remember a friend of mine, I won't mention his name. We were out in London once a few years ago, and there was this girl, she was absolutely beautiful. And, you know, well out of my league, well out of his league. So when I say that, well out of my league, it means like someone's just, you know, too good looking for you. So I thought, there's no point talking to this girl. It's a waste of time. But my friend sort of, you know, carried on, which means continued. Anyway, so he carried on. And I remember she said, I live in Norwich, which is a place in England. And he said, Norwich, that's just up the A12, isn't it? It's about 2 hours. And I was like, talking about roads. I just remember looking at him, just sort of shaking my head to say, please stop. Please stop. This is embarrassing.
How did it go? Are they married now?
Oh, yeah, sure. Oh, she was absolutely loving talking about roads. Not even motorways, because in England, motorways are like M25, and A roads are like something smaller, not even as important as a motorway. Maybe if he had been speaking about motorways, Dan, he would have got lucky. That's a conditional. What conditional, Dan?
Third.
Oh, boom, shaka, laka. And I said he would have got lucky. What does it mean to get lucky?
He would have had sex.
Yeah, so when you get lucky, it means you, like, let's say, pull a member of the opposite sex. And pull someone means to, again, have sex. Many ways to say that. Hey, Dan.
Yeah, you've done quite a bit of rock and roll vocabulary today. You trying to take away my title?
See, I think it's a myth that you're the one that comes up with all the rock and roll vocabulary. So a myth is like something not true. I just think, you know, I praise you. Now you've got the name Dictionary Dan. I think people are just giving you that title when really you don't really deserve it.
Thank you.
So another one here is that you can stay in touch with your friends when you're single, because when you're in a relationship, often people forget about their friends. So has that been the case with you, Dan?
I think I've got more friends now, to be honest.
Yeah? Well, you didn't have many before, did you?
Yeah, I know, exactly. I've got 2 now. So,
But then you are good at keeping in touch with people, though, aren't you? Like a new person every day, keeping in touch with old friends.
Yeah, I remember when you moved to Italy and you suddenly started getting in contact with me again.
Oh, because I had no friends.
Because of the isolation.
Yeah, well, that's it. I was single, so I was staying in touch with friends, Dan. That's it. It's simple.
Yeah.
And it says that you have tons of time. So tons of just means lots of. So when you were single, Dan, what did you do with this tons of time that you had?
I read a lot.
Yeah, now?
Which I don't do. Well, I don't read as much anymore, but...
How much do you read now?
Well, an hour a day.
Not bad, Dan. Well, I mean, saying that, though, as a freelance human being, I imagine you have many hours in the day.
24.
Well, exactly. In fact, this is the next one. To do whatever the hell you want, which is just an emphatic way to say to do whatever you want. Although, if you had been a freelance human being and single, Dan, that would have been mega.
Yeah, I don't know what I would have done. Probably would have cured cancer.
Well, exactly, yeah. Another conditional there, though, Dan. What was that? Do you remember what I said? I
don't know.
Never mind. Let's go forward, Dan, okay? I don't want to confuse that little brain of yours.
Thank you.
So this is a benefit of being single. This is very interesting, okay? The benefit of being single, apparently, for women is that they have great sex, because studies showed that married women don't have as good sex as single women.
What about people who aren't married but aren't single?
Sorry, well, I said married. I mean people in a relationship. So basically it says single women have better sex than women in a relationship.
Are you saying that Mrs. Rock and Roll English is not satisfied?
Oh, that was really good, Dan. I don't really know what to say to that. I'm not particularly comfortable about talking.
Well, hopefully she'll send in a review so we can read it out next week.
Yeah, here's hoping, which is a nice way to say let's hope, but that won't happen. Anyway, but for fellas, it's different, Dan. What do I mean, fellas?
Same as lads.
Lads, men, basically. And a study found that men in relationships have better sex than single men. I think that's quite easy because, well, when I was single, there was not much sex happening, so...
Well, that's actually given me a good idea for a show one day. Maybe we could do a show on your sex life.
Oh yeah, that would be great, won't it? Why don't we do a show on your sex life?
It wouldn't last long.
Exactly, and neither would mine. So another one, I think this is actually a benefit of being single, is that you can sleep in peace and quiet.
Yeah, I agree with that.
How's it going with the bracelet? Remember, Dan has a bracelet now to wake himself up.
It's not going so well. I'm thinking about putting it on my ankle because I'm turning it off in my sleep.
Because you turn it off when you're sleeping. What would be the difference of your ankle?
Well, I have to lean down to get it to turn it off.
It reminds me of like when you go, like when children go swimming and they have like these little bracelets on.
Yeah, it's just like that.
So, speaking of being single, though, in our full volume, Dan, on Thursday, we will be talking about a woman who married herself. Have you heard this story?
No.
An Italian woman married herself.
It's interesting. At least I know I've got options.
Exactly. If all goes tits up, marry yourself. What do I mean if it all goes tits up?
If it goes terribly.
If it goes terribly, exactly. Not the most formal thing to say. Anyway, we'll do one more of this list, Dan. That when you are single, you have less financial stress because according to debt.com, notice that word is debt and not debt. Because there's a B in there, Dan. Silent letters. Do you know anything about them?
Well, I know they're silent.
Well, you probably worked that out from the name. So work out is another phrasal verb, Dan. I think I've done all the rock and roll vocabulary
I think
today.
you have, yeah.
Before, you had some point to be on the show, rock and roll vocabulary. Now you're not even giving that. So, what are you doing here?
I don't know.
So, yeah, debt.com says that single people are less likely to have credit card debt.
Really?
Yes, Stan, because they don't have families and stuff like that. So, do you have more financial stress now that you're in a relationship? Or do you have financial stress because you don't have a job?
Freelance human being doesn't pay that well, I'll be honest with you.
I can imagine, but, there are pros and cons to life, Dan, in all things.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
I'll leave you. The last few weeks, I've been giving you a piece of advice towards the end of the podcast. So I think I'm going to do that again now.
Like an agony aunt, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. So agony aunt is someone that you basically speak to give, who gives you advice for your problems. Always look on the bright side of life, Dan.
That's not even your quote. That's from...
Yeah, but it's just... I take advice from people and then I give it, okay?
What film's it from?
It's from the song, isn't it? Always look on the bright side of life.
You've been singing a lot lately, haven't you?
My singing career is taking off, Dan. Taking off. Another phrasal verb is sort of becoming successful.
Yeah, okay. So what film is it from?
I don't know, Dan. I know the song.
Terrible.
Okay. Anyway, watch the film and just look on the bright side of life, okay?
Mm-hmm. Cheers.
See you later.
See you later.
Okay, so that was Dan and me speaking about Singles Awareness Day. So let's look at some of that rock and roll vocabulary. Had the word lads again, which is a difficult word to describe, really. It's like just young men, really. But not all young men. Young men that like to drink and, I don't know, play football. They are lads, let's say. Dan said his head is all over the place, which means there's like chaos. We often say it about people. He's all over the place. Like he doesn't know what's going on. He's crazy. There's chaos in his head. We had chalk and cheese when I described me and Dan, because Dan likes green, I like red. So I said we are like chalk and cheese, which are two things obviously completely different. I actually made a video about that, which I'll put on the website if you want to see. Had the term colourblind, which is me, unfortunately, because I cannot distinguish some colours. So I am colour blind, but I can see colours, okay? I do not see the world in black and white, which is a very common thing people ask me. We had the word prick, which is the same as dick. I don't know why we say prick. I think it's like supposed to be a nicer way to say dick, but if you're saying dick, it's just not nice, so it's not a nice word. We had the word tacky as well, which is something that's like cheap and shit, really. You can use this to describe a lot of things, really. Even a website. You can say your website looks tacky, like cheap and shit. Who did that for you? Like, person doesn't know how to make websites. I don't know. And we had a nice term when I said it's just the norm. The norm means like normal, the normality, the normal stuff. We had self-pity, which is like when you feel sorry for yourself. We had some nice rock and roll grammar as well with wish they were sing. People wish they were single. Remember, wish and the past for present wishes. If it's a past wish, you would say something like, I wish I had never met Dan, for example. Past perfect after wish. Boom. Had the term took part in a survey. If you take part in something, you take part in it. I don't know how to describe it. You do something. When you are, let's say, actively involved. It's not easy with these definitions. Where is Dictionary Dan when you need him? Speaking of Dictionary Dan, I said that he was ripping up the rule book, which is just a very funny, nice way to say that you don't follow rules. He said that he got chucked out of bars for being a sexual pest. So if you get chucked out, it's the same as being thrown out. And a pest is someone that's very annoying. Doesn't always need to be a sexual pest. You can just say, stop being a pest. It's actually quite a nice thing to say. It's not very offensive. We had the term about well out of my league or his league or your league about a girl, which is another funny way to say that a girl is too good looking for you. Or a man can be too good looking for a girl. Say she is way out my league. It's like she's in the 1st division and I'm in the 5th division, let's say. We had the term get lucky, which means to have sex. Basically, if you get lucky, it means you go out, find a girl or a man and have sex. We had the term tons off when I said that you have tons of time when you're single. It means lots of. Another nice term was you can do whatever the hell you want. Again, just to enforce that you can do whatever you want. And another nice term, again from me, was here's hoping. It's a very strange thing to say. It's just the same as saying let's hope. You say like, I don't know, you're going to win the lottery. Here's hoping. Let's hope. It's the same. We had the word fella or fellas, which is the same as man. That one's a bit nicer than lad, but again, it's a bit of a strange word. Often you say that on an evening, you could say, hi fellas, like just for a joke. A very nice term, again, by me, sure, was when I said, if everything goes tits up, you can marry yourself. This is a very funny term, obviously to be used with friends. It means if everything goes badly, you can use it for anything really. If you make a video, it goes badly, you can say the video went tits up. And taking off again, we had that a few times recently, which means to become successful, which is my career in singing that is taking off. Speaking of words coming up regularly, this is what I spoke about in the bonus episode when you need to see the word 7 times. So these phrasal verbs keep popping up in episodes, the more chance there is of you remembering them. Okay, so it's a good thing. Anyway, that's enough from me. Remember, the full volume is starting tomorrow. Everyone will get access to that for 2 weeks. And then if you want to continue, go to rockandrollenglish.com/full volume. In the meantime, just keep on rocking, baby.
Thanks so much for listening to Rock and Roll English. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit rockandrollenglish.com and facebook.com/rockandrollenglish. We'll catch you next time.